Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Ryan and welcome to Math with RG. Thank you so much for checking out this lesson today. Remember, it's going to be you and I, and we're going to conquer this. Are you ready? Here we go! Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Ryan and today we're going to be talking about perfect squares. So, perfect squares, why are they important? Well, they come up a lot, especially in Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then they keep coming up in Pre-Calc, Trig, and Calculus. So, it's important to know these. I'm sure a lot of you already know 1 through 10 displayed on the screen. Well, now I'm going to teach you a very cool logical trick in order to figure these out all the way up to 20, and you can even continue on past that. Alright, so there's actually a few tricks involved here. We're going to get started right now. We're looking at the very last one on the screen here, 10 squared. 10 squared is 100. Now, the very next one would be 11 squared. So, we write down 11 squared. Now, logic tells us because 10 squared is 100, that 11 squared has to also be in the hundreds. And that's because we know that it's only going up by a little bit each time. But the gap increases more and more. Alright, so we know the first digit is 1. The last digit is when you look at the last digit of the problem. And all you have to do is square it. So 11 squared, the last digit of that is 1. 1 squared, well, what is that? That's 1. We already have that on the screen here. That's going to come in handy at the end for sure. Now, 11 squared, we got to find that middle digit now. How do we do that? Well, we look back at 10 squared and 9 squared. As you can see, we're approaching 19 as a difference right there. Well, now you can see that we're going to go up just a little bit more. So our only logical explanation for the middle digit has to be a 2, because there is no way that it could be 1, because you can see the difference between 81 and 100 is 19. Alright, so now we move on to 12 squared. First digit, well, logic again dictates that we have to be in the hundreds. Now, last digit, 2 squared. What is that? 4. That's right. Alright, cool. Now, we know that our gap is in the 20s right now. We also know that it's going to go up just a little bit more each time. But if our gap is in the 20s and we're at 121, we got to be at 144. So that middle digit has to be a 4. And that's because if you add 20 something to 121, 2 plus 2 is 4. We already knew that the last digit was going to be 4 based on the trick of taking the last digit of the 12 and squaring it. Alright, so now we get to 13 squared. First digit, you guessed it, we're still in the hundreds because there's no way that we could get all the way up into the 200s yet, because again, our gap is still in the 20s, but it has gone up just a little bit. Alright, now last digit, 3 squared, 9. So now you ask, well, what is the middle digit again? Well, as we said before, our gap is in the 20s. But we do have to be careful because our last digit here is 9. Now, luckily, our gap here is not going to surpass us into the next group of 10s. So that means that we're still going to be going up by 2. So the middle digit is 6. So 13 squared is 169. Now, here's what I also recommend, that once you get all these written down, you build something called retainment. Now, how do you build retainment? Well, retainment is achieved by learning the most efficient way. And the most efficient way is to say out loud what you're doing as you're writing it down. That really helps the brain process a visual aspect, a hearing aspect, and a muscle memory aspect of actually writing it. So yes, you know, you may be sitting at home in your room and you're talking to yourself, and that's okay. You can, you know, let your family know, like, hey, just want to let you guys know I'm studying, I'm going to be talking to myself, don't worry about it, I'm learning efficiently, learning how to build retainer. I'm telling you, it works. It is just one of the best ways to do this. All right, so moving on to 14 squared. We know, again, the first digit is still going to be 1 because we're not going to go up 30-something. If we were going up 30-something, we would be in the 200s. All right, now here's where it gets just a little tricky. 4 squared is 16. Now before, we were having just single-digit answers, but now we have a double digit, 16. So what do? Well, we're going to take the last digit, which is just the 6, and that will become our last digit of our answer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add that 1 onto the middle digit of the previous thing, plus we know our gap is going up in the 20s. So if you add the 1 to the 6, that becomes 7. And then we know we're going up 20-something, so the 7 turns into a 9. And there we have it, 196. Now, I ask you to pause again and just look at 13 and 14. Now, 13 squared is 169, 14 squared is 196. What do you notice? Well, if you didn't notice it, I'll let you know right now. But you can also pause the video and try a little bit longer. 169, 196. The last 2 digits are just switched. So that is just a cool little trick between 13 and 14. If you know one of them, you'll know both. All right, so moving on to 15 squared. 15 squared, well, 14 squared was 196, right? So that means that 15 squared is our first answer that is going to be in the 200s because we're 4 digits away, right? So we got to be in the 200s. So first digit, 200s. Now, 15, that ends in a 5. So what is 5 squared? Well, that's 25, which means our answer will also end in a 5. All right, now we know that we moved into a gap of almost 30 because we've been in the 20s for a while, right? 120, 121, 144, 169, 196. We've been moving through the 20s, which is our gap, okay? So you can see that it went up 21, then went up 20-something, a little more. I'm going to go into a little more detail in a moment about that. So that means that if we're almost at a gap of 30, that our middle digit here has to be a 2. Now here's a cool thing about numbers that end in 5 if you're squaring them. The answer will always end in 25. So for example, 5 squared is 25. 15 squared is 225. 25 squared is 625. And so forth. All right, so we're moving on to 16 squared. Here we go. First digit, well, we're in the 200s now, so we know it's 200. Last digit, what's 6 squared? Well, we've got that written down over here on the left side, is 36. So we're going to take that last digit of 6, put it on there. Now, we know that the gap is in the 30s now. So all we have to do is add 3 plus 2, and we get 5, and there is our middle digit. 16 squared, 256. Again, when you're studying these, I would start from scratch, write them down, say them out loud as you're writing them down. It's really going to help you, I promise. All right, 17 squared. Now this one has actually got a funny little joke attached to it, which I'll tell at the very end. All right, so first digit, our difference is in the 30s, so we know that we're not going to surpass into the 300s. So we've got 2 as our first digit. 7 squared, what's that? 49. So 9 is our last digit. And again, we know that our gap is in the 30s, but the lower end of the 30s. So we just have to add 3 to 5, and we get 8. 289. So here's the funny joke. You know, the question is 17 squared equals 289. So here's the joke. Why was 17 scared? Because 289. Oh man, I mean, it's not that funny, you know, it's kind of like a dad joke, funny math joke thing, but all right, anyway, you get it. It may help you memorize it, it may not. All right, here we go. 18 squared. First digit, who knows it? 3, that's right, we're in the 300s now. So we're in the 300s because 289 is 11 digits away from 300. So that means, and we already know that the gap is in the 30s, so we have to logically be in the 300s now. All right, what is 8 squared? 64. So we put a 4 at the end. Okay, so now here's what we do. You look at this and you say to yourself, okay, well, if 8 squared is 64, and I know that my gap between numbers is in the like mid to upper 30s now, and I'm at 289, I know that there's no way it could be 314. Because if it was 314, that would only be a gap of 25. But I already know that the gap is in the 30s. So again, logic comes back into play. When we move up just one more group of 10, we know that the middle digit is 2. 18 squared, 324. All right, so now we're moving into 19 squared. We're almost there. 300s. We already know that. There's no way that it could be going all the way up into the 400s. So, first digit is 3 of 19 squared. Last digit, well, what is 9 times 9? 81. So our last digit is 1. Now, here's where you have to be careful. Your gap is in the upper 30s now. Upper 30s meaning we're past 36. So the gap is going to be above 36, which means that it is going to push your 324 into the next group of 10. So we can't just add 3 to the 2. We have to add 4 to the 2 for that middle digit. And that will become a 6. 19 squared, 361. All right, and our last one here is 20 squared. Here's what's cool about multiplying numbers that have zeros at the end. All you have to do is multiply the numbers that are not zeros. So what is 2 times 2? 4. And then I have a 0 and another 0 from the other 20, so I just put 2 zeros, and it's 400. All right, guys, this was the perfect square video. Thank you very much. Check it out, read it over, watch it over and over. It'll really help you out. All right, thank you very much. Enjoy. Thank you all so much for watching this lesson today. This has been Math with RG. I'm Ryan, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.